In the last 2 weeks, I walked into a store, and you're probably like, Brian, you walked into a store? And yeah, I walked into that store and I found a laptop for 1,288 Aussie dollars on sale. Now, this laptop had an RTX 3060 6GB edition and also had an i5. What they were saying on the label was an 11800H for an i5. I think they were meant to, I don't know, they misadvertised the CPU a little bit. But anyway, after checking out the specs, it had an i5 11400H. And now this CPU is actually 6 cores, 12 threads, and it's very powerful for a laptop solution, especially given the price. Now, one thing I will say is when I was walking through this store was not only did I catch COVID, and so I've been pretty sick, and that's the reason I haven't uploaded a video in over a week now, but also, and we're better now, don't worry fellas, we came through it okay. It's just, it did shake me up a little bit. But also while I was at this store, I noticed that there were a lot of bad deals. So I had to go through all these deals and I really only found one that stuck out as being a worthy purchase, especially because when we look at gaming PCs at Tech City, we always look at a balance between the GPU and the CPU. So some of these laptops, they had the 4-core 8-threaded solutions. That's the 10400H. So I personally wouldn't go with that for a CPU if I was going with, say, an RTX 3060 laptop. And the reasons being is because not only you get the 4 cores, 8 threads, which is okay, but because it's a laptop, they are clocked a little bit lower. But for me personally, if I was going with a laptop, especially one with an RTX 3060, 6GB in it, I would go for a 6-core 12-thread. Now, the 11400H over the 10400H, there's two big differences because I did see a few laptops sporting these older i5 10400Hs. Now, they're only a 4-core 8-thread as opposed to a 6-core 12-thread, and the 11400H also carries better clock speeds and better IPC, meaning it's going to be not just a little bit faster, it's actually going to be a lot faster than a 10400H. So this laptop right here, on the surface, for what we paid at 1,288 Aussie dollars, which when we convert that into USD, it's around 930 US dollars, it actually ended up being a very good deal. And when I looked on eBay, you can currently buy laptops for a really good price, considering the desktop PC components are still pretty overpriced, especially if you want to go with something from NVIDIA, where I noticed the NVIDIA GPUs, the desktop solutions, are still commanding quite a high premium, to the point where if you're looking for an NVIDIA graphics card and you're going with a new build, you may wish to consider going with a laptop, where today we're going to be testing out the performance of this laptop and comparing it versus a recent desktop PC that I built, which came around about 1,150 US dollars. Now, one thing from the photos and the B-roll I've shown you guys so far is you may notice that there's also this Windows Ultimate Edition upsell on the same price tag. And it's almost another 200 Aussie dollars. If you're going to buy a PC anywhere in the world, if it's the US, Australia, don't fall for this upgrade. It's literally 200 bucks for a Windows license upgrade, which from our sponsors here at Tech City, SCD Keys, you can pay 14 US dollars and using the coupon BFTYC, and you can just get this upgrade from Windows 10 or Windows 11 Home to Windows 11 Pro, because that's pretty much all this Ultimate Edition upgrade is just a Windows update on your computer. So don't be fooled by paying $200 for this. Use the link in the description and use the coupon code, and you'll save yourself a lot of money. But you may also be looking at this laptop and you're thinking, 8GB of memory, that is just not enough for gaming in 2022, especially if you're getting a laptop with an RTX 3060 in it. And this is a trick that stores like to do to upsell you their RAM upgrade service, which they'll charge, at least in the place that I bought it for, they're charging $200 just to upgrade the memory to 16GB. Or of course, they'll try and upsell you a higher end laptop with 16GB or 32GB. But when I was in the store, I asked them, I said, is this just a single stick of memory? And is there a slot for another stick of 8GB? And they said yes. So in this case, I just went to a local computer store. I picked up an 8GB stick of 3200 megahertz laptop memory, and it only cost me 55 Aussie dollars, which would be a little under 40 US dollars in America. And then it took 5 minutes to upgrade this to 16 gigabytes of memory. We just had to pull off the back of the tray and then insert the memory. And then the BIOS on this laptop actually automatically locked it into 3200 megahertz XMP profiles. And then we were good to go when it came to gaming. Though, with all that aside, let's start loading some games up on this thing and then test out the pros and cons of going with a laptop in 2022. So after running some figures here, I tested out 4 different games, which I've also tested out in the previous gaming PC that we built here on the channel, which actually featured an RTX 2080 Super. And so this laptop actually fared surprisingly very well and when it came to the benchmarks. And so when we came to Age of Empires 4, for example, at max settings at 1080p, we're getting over 80 average FPS. And then going to Apex Legends, pretty much at all times, we're getting over 110 average FPS. And then in Fortnite, we were getting close to 90 average FPS. And the 0.1% lows for a laptop, they were very well controlled, nothing out of the ordinary. Though another really good benefit of this whole laptop is that the power consumption will be extremely good, scoring 169 watts when we plugged it directly to an external monitor, meaning this monitor here is going to be turned off while you're gaming. But then if you're using this internal monitor, when I was measuring the power consumption during Unigine Heaven, it was going up to 176 watts. So the monitor on the laptop itself doesn't use up a whole lot of power. Though continuing on with some of the benchmarks, we got the Time Spy and also the Firestrike Extreme benchmarks. First off with the Time Spy benchmarks, see here that the graphics score as well as the CPU score are very well balanced, both scoring over 6,000 points each. And then move over to Firestrike Extreme. The CPU actually performs quite well given that it's a laptop CPU, scoring over 18,000 points. And then the GPU managed to score over 9,000 points, beating out that of an RTX 2060, at least from the numbers that we've got here. And so with those numbers in mind, the last benchmark I'll pull up for you guys is the FPS per dollar. And here's where we're scoring 0.4 for these numbers. So the RTX 2080 Super PC that we built, that was actually using new and used components. That scored over 0.4. This is coming in with a little bit less value, but the good thing about this laptop, of course, is that it's brand new. Everything inside is brand new. It does come with a warranty that does cover the whole laptop. In Australia, this is 2 years, as opposed to other countries, it might only be 1 year or... Though one thing I will say about this laptop is that it does get a little bit noisy, especially when you're gaming, and the temperatures on the CPU and GPU are running over 80 degrees. The CPU will sometimes go into the 90-degree region, so they do run a little bit hot, especially for long-term gaming. So if you're gaming for hours and hours, you may wish to just grab a desktop just due to this fact alone that these laptops will get hot, and your desktop components, especially in the case of undervolting them with decent airflow, they'll remain around 60 degrees. So in terms of longevity, laptops themselves, the components inside do run quite hot. And I think this is why they do fail a lot of the time, is due to just them running a bit hot than I would otherwise like. So me personally, I always like to run my stuff under 70 degrees when it comes to a laptop. But the good news here, at least with this versus a gaming PC, is that you do get a keyboard included. It is a very nice keyboard in this case, and the Full HD 144Hz screen is actually pretty solid too. So the value for money with a laptop is certainly something worth considering if you know how to navigate the waters and find the cream of the crop. In this case, the laptop we've got here, the Acer Nitro 5, that we got for $1288 plus 55 Aussie dollars for the RAM upgrade, it ended up being a really good buy. But one thing I would like to perhaps see laptop manufacturers start doing is perhaps just release a laptop-sized box minus the screen, keyboard, and the touchpad and reduce the costs. So you've literally got like a desktop laptop hybrid that is coming in with a very good price. So maybe perhaps we'll see a shift like this going forward due to the uncertainty of the environment where prices always have to keep to a certain threshold because consumers always have their own price thresholds, and the more you hit that mark, the more you're going to sell as a company like Acer or Asus or MSI and stuff like that. In the laptop game, So there might be some interesting shifts in coming years when it comes to what PC consumers are actually able to buy on the shelves. The one thing that I can tell you with certainty is that there is a lot of uncertainty right now. And what that means is generally when there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, prices of things go up in general. But basically in 2022, if you are looking for a good deal for a gaming desktop PC, you may wish to start looking for a laptop and see perhaps if there's a better deal going on in your area. For me, I was actually surprised to see that a local retailer that usually rips people off, and to be fair, a lot of their PCs at the time when I went looking for just to have a look what was on their shelves was a ripoff. There was some really good deals in the mix of the ripoffs. So always keep your eyes out for a bargain. I guess now it doesn't matter if it's just a gaming desktop that's new or if it's used PC parts, which I personally love. You might also wish to keep your eyes out for a gaming laptop. Anyway guys, with that aside, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button. Also let us know in the comments section below what you think of gaming laptops and their prices right now, especially versus the desktop market. Love reading those thoughts and opinions as always. Just like this question of the day here, which comes from Silentium Mortem, and they ask, would you still say the same a year later? And they're referring to our 5800X, Ryzen 7 5800X review, where it was a high cost CPU, but it was a good quality CPU. In terms of 1 year later, would I still say the same about the 5800X? The answer would be, well, there's better options now, especially with the 12700K. So if I was looking for a 5800X 1 year ago, I'd now actually be looking instead for a 12700K. I do think it's going to be a better buy. It's going to give you not just better value for money, but much better performance and absolute performance. So I hope that answers that question. And with that aside, I'll catch you guys in the next one very soon. Again, sorry for the hiatus, and I'll see you next time. Peace out for now. Bye.